An arsenal is defined as a place where weapons are made and stored, or it may refer to the group of weapons themselves. Today we begin compiling our cyber weapons, our hacker's arsenal. Each week we will discuss a new hacker tool, some well known, some underground. I will show you how to obtain them and demonstrate when and how to use them. However, before we start stockpiling, we need a solid foundation. Today on Hacker's Arsenal, to serve as our future hacking platform, we will begin building a fully operational install of Kali on Windows 10. A platform that brings the best capabilities of both Linux and Windows for us to build our arsenal. Hey everybody, my name is Bill. I go by @HeavenSent on Twitter, and welcome to the first episode of Hacker's Arsenal. So Hacker's Arsenal, what we're going to do is we're going to show you a hacking tool every week, just kind of tell you about what it is, when to use it, how to use it, those kind of things. But before we get started, I wanted to have a platform for us to work from, I guess. And so today what we're going to be doing is installing Kali Linux on Windows 10. Now, a lot of people probably wondering why we want to be doing it this way, and there's a lot of advantages to doing it, to having Linux on a Windows system. Some tools only run in Linux, right? So you have to have a Linux system to be able to run them. Others only run in Windows, and some run better in one operating system or the other. So what we're going to build today is a platform that really takes advantages of both, right? So today we're going to get going with installing Kali on Windows. Now, I've seen a lot of blog posts and other descriptions on how to do this, and I feel like they don't fully go through it, and there's some steps that they missed that I think are pretty relevant and need to be done. So that's why I'm making this video rather than just sending you to a link. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we can actually install Kali, we have to enable the Linux subsystem in Windows, and it's pretty easy. We just click on the Start button and then bring up a PowerShell. I'm just typing PowerShell, and then make sure that you run it as administrator. Okay, once PowerShell opens, you need to run that first command that I have listed down there in the bottom right. And once again, what this is doing is just enabling the Linux subsystem in Windows. Now, it says that you don't need to restart, but I disagree. I think it's best if you go ahead and restart Windows at this step. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot this computer. Okay, once you've enabled the Linux subsystem and restarted your computer, you just need to go to the Windows Store and search for Kali. Now, yours may come up and look a little bit different than mine, and that's okay. Yours might say Get here. It's because you need to buy it from the Windows Store. Just go. It's free. Just go ahead and click Get, and then install. And if you do get any of these Windows pop-ups asking you to log in, sign in, whatever, you can just, nope, I don't want to, put it away. Now, this may take a little bit, just depending on your connectivity to the internet. It's about 186 megs, so it shouldn't take too long to download, but just go ahead and let it install. Now, while this is doing this, I may mention, so I'm doing this on a VirtualBox computer. And you can do it that way, but I would suggest that this is perfectly safe to install just on your normal Windows box. You might want to have a separate pen testing or hacking box where you do this, and you're not doing it always on your main box. But hey, use whatever you got to use. And hey, if you want to go through this the first time using a virtual system, that makes a lot of sense to me too. So once it's done installing, we're just going to need to click on Launch, and this is just going to finish the install. This doesn't take very long. Okay, when you get to this screen, we are going to need to designate a user ID for your Linux subsystem, and this can be the same or it can be different than your Windows account. It doesn't matter. For mine, I'm just going to use the username HackersArsenal. and then I need to give it a password. And, you have to type it correctly both times. Okay, so at this point, you're definitely going to want to make sure you write down your username and password that you created in your Linux box. Now, this is really important to remember. This is a completely separate ID than your Windows ID here. So, you need to make sure you write that down, jot that down, whatever. Okay, so at this point, you've kind of got it done, and a lot of this is kind of where the blog posts stop, and there's a lot of work left. In order to get a real working Kali box that'll really treat you right and get you where you really want to go, we have a lot of work to do left. So I'm going to kind of walk through these next couple commands. I kind of expect that you've probably seen Linux before. Hopefully you have some experience with Linux. This is a Debian-based distribution, so we're going to be using the apt command. But before we do anything, we really need to go and disable Windows Defender, and let me explain why, or actually any antivirus that you may have running. So we're going to be downloading all the tools that come with Kali, and a lot of those tools contain exploits or shell code or those kind of things. Now these aren't going to be installed or attacking your computer. We're just downloading them for Kali, right? So that we can use them in that system. However, during the download, your antivirus or Windows Defender may catch that and prevent this. And generally speaking, if you have any kind of problems with this install or anything like that, more than likely it's probably going to be related to your antivirus is stopping or catching the download. So because this is a completely empty virtual box install of Windows 10, I'm only using Windows Defender as my AV. So I'm going to show you how to do that for this install. If you're using a separate third-party AV, you're just going to need to figure out how to disable it yourself. Now we are going to re-enable it, at the end, right? So the only purpose for us disabling it is just for the install. So I'm going to click on the Windows Start button, and I'm just going to type virus. I'm going to go to virus threat protection. And I'm going to go down to manage settings, and I'm going to turn off real-time protection. Now, I know this gets kind of scary and it might get you a little bit nervous, but I promise we're not going to be doing anything malicious to your computer. This is truly just for us to install Kali. And we're going to put that back. Now, I'm going to go back and get my Kali screen here. Now this is a real Linux terminal here, and once again it's running a Kali or Debian based distribution. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to do a sudo, which switches user to the administrative user, and we're going to do an apt update and sudo apt dist -y. Now let me go through that command before I hit enter. So sudo changes. So our user that we just created in Kali does not have administrative or root permissions, and the sudo command switches user to the root user to be able to install or make any system-wide changes. The apt is the Debian package manager, so it's how we can install new software in our Linux box in this Kali system. And once again, it's running as a subsystem. So the sudo apt update, what that's going to do is that's going to reach out to Kali's app servers, and it's going to download a list of packages to see what needs to be upgraded on this system. The and symbol says, hey, after you're done with that command, run this next one, and then we're going to do a sudo, once again switching to the administrative user, apt dist -upgrade. So what that's going to do is it's going to go and say upgrade me to whatever the latest Kali distribution is. So the reason why we want to do that, especially in an instruction set like this, is you're seeing this video maybe a year or so after I've created it. This will still work, and this will upgrade you to the latest and greatest. And the -y just says, hey, say yes to any commands. Now, the first time we run sudo, it's going to ask us to give us the password, and this is the password that we just set to the Linux subsystem. Okay, this is going to take a while. This is going to take about, just depending on how many packages that need to be upgraded or installed. This could take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to do this. Just it depends on a lot of different things, your connection to the internet, and once again, how many things need to be installed. Looks like mine is done. That took about 5 minutes for me. So the next step that we need to do is before we get started, I'm just going to remind you, if you have not already stopped your antivirus, this is where you're going to get in trouble. I've tried this many different ways, to make sure that the install goes correctly, and I'm finding that you're just going to have to disable it in order for it to get to work correctly. So moving on, we're going to keep going on with the instructions I've got there in the bottom right. We're going to once again do a sudo apt install. This time we're going to do Kali desktop Xfce Xrdp and Kali community wallpapers. So let's go through that command real quick again. So once again, we're going to sudo that switches to the package installer. We're going to install, and this time we're going to be choosing the Kali desktop Xfce. This is the window manager that we're going to be using. Xrdp is the RDP session that we're going to be using. You'll see that here later. And the Kali community wallpapers, just because they're dope. And /y once again says yes to any questions. That took about 30 minutes on my machine to get to this point. So as we're going through here, I got these configuration options. I just wanted to make sure I was going through them with you. So this, I'm going to choose the layout for me. I'm going to choose English US for the keyboard layout. And then it's just going to finish installing these modules. Okay, so mine's done, and that took a little bit longer than I thought. That took about 40 minutes on my virtual system here. And again, what we just installed was the GUI, the graphical user interface of Kali. That we'll be able to, I'll show you how we access that here shortly. The next one that we're going to install Python 3. So this really isn't needed. Our package manager should handle this to ensure that we have smooth sailing for everybody. We're going to go ahead and install it by itself. So once again, we're going to sudo apt install, and then we're going to do Python 3 -y for yep. Go ahead and type in now this is your Linux password, the one that we set at the very beginning. Okay, so on my system, so what this shows is that Python was already installed, and that's good. That just means everything's set up fine. You'll see that it did kick back an error that said that it found some packages that are no longer required. We're not going to deal with that right now. We're just going to go ahead and move on. So don't, even if yours comes back and says that, you don't really need to worry about that so much. Okay, so the next step, this is the one this is the danger zone. This is the one where we're going to install all the packages that come with Kali. So these are the hacking tools. This is going to be the step that if you do have an antivirus running, or Windows Defender running, that it's going to cause a problem. And I can almost guarantee if you're going to have any problems with this, it's probably going to be in this step, and it's probably going to be because you have not disabled your antivirus. Before we get started, though, I want to show you what we're doing. So we've already got the base Kali installed. So essentially where we're at right now is we have a very basic Linux system installed on our Windows 10. We're interacting with it via the terminal, and we're installing some packages. Kali has some meta packages, and I've pulled up their website here, tools.kali.org/Kali-meta packages, where you can see what we can install. So you can go through there and you can kind of choose your own. And if it might be good to pause this video and go out there and read through this. What we're going to install is we're going to install the Kali Linux default. So this is the general, the base images, the basic tools that come with Kali, the ones that you're going to be using the most. Probably most of the ones that we're going to cover in this series. You can also see that you could install Just specific tools themselves, like just the vulnerability assessment tools or just the wireless tools. You could install these. You can also, if you scroll down there to the bottom, you can install everything, like every package or the top 10. Obviously, if you install everything, it'll take a lot longer. Plus, I don't think it's really needed. So we're going to install once again the Kali Linux default. Now, the way that we do that is we go back to our terminal window. You can see it's marked Kali down here, and we're going to type sudo once again apt install Kali -Linux -default with a -y that just says yes. Now, so even with the default install, this takes a while. I would expect anywhere from 20-30 minutes for this to install. This one's going to ask some questions. It's going to ask some configuration options about some of the packages that are installed. When mine hits that, and show you which options to choose. Hey, I came in and checked up on mine, and it looks like mine had stalled out a little bit. You can see that there's some failed to fetch errors. This is no big deal. This just means the network connection timed out. Maybe it was my proxy or something like that. You probably won't have this problem, but if you do, you can just hit up and we're going to rerun the command again, and it'll pick up right where it left off. No big deal. All right. Welcome back. If you made it this far, you're almost there. We're almost done. So like I mentioned, there's going to be a few questions that it's asking. We just need to configure this for your setup. So this first question is basically asking if you're going to be using a DHCP server. More than likely, the answer is going to be yes. So we're going to answer yes to that. This next question, unless you are going to be using this machine on as an on-site pen testing machine, this is asking if you want to get a new MAC address every time that you connect to the network or wireless. So most of the time this answer is going to be no. There's going to be some very specific edge cases where this might be yes, but for the most part you choose no here. So you have the option. So Mac Changer will be installed with Kali, so we can use it when we need it. But if we say yes here, there may be some difficulty down the line when you're trying to set up firewall rules, those kind of things. So let's say no there. All right. The next is allowing privileged for packet captures. Let's say yes. Again, Kismet asking for some permissions. Let's say yes. And then let's add the user that we created when we installed Kali. For me, so once again, this is the Linux user that you created right when we installed the program. So for me, I'm going to put HackersArsenal. And hit OK. This next one is a multiplexer, and once again, kind of going back to like the Mac Changer. Unless you have a very specific reason, you're going to want to run this from inetd. And then those should be the only configuration options that it asks you. Then it's going to go ahead and prepare and install those packages that it downloaded. This won't take as long as the download did, but it will take a little bit. So the last couple things that we need to do is very early on we installed a RDP server that'll allow us to see the desktop. So we need to configure that RDP server to allow for connections to it. So currently what we need to do is we just need to edit the configuration file, and because this is a system configuration file, we're going to need a privileged user. So we're going to sudo nano etc xrdp xrdp.ini. This is the configuration file, and then we're going to need to authenticate. So once again, this is a configuration file for the RDP server that we installed. So it's currently configured to run on port 3389. And the reason why we need to change this is your local box may already have an RDP server installed. And even if you have it turned off, you may want to turn it on in the future, because you may want to remote control your Windows machine as well. So let's go ahead and change this. You can really change this to any port that you want. We're going to put it on 23,000. I would suggest that, if you're going to be following this series at all, that you go ahead and use port 23,000, because I'm going to reference it in the future. But hey, you can configure it however you want. So let's go ahead, edit that file, and then to exit, we just press Control X, Y to save, enter for the file name, and that's saved. Now we need to start the service. So we're going to sudo service Xrdp Start. This brings up a Windows asking, hey, we've got a local firewall. We see a service that's going to be listening. Do we want this to access local networks, public networks? So we're going to go ahead and choose private networks, unchoose public networks, hit allow access there. Okay, so we're pretty much done here. So I want to show you a little around a little bit. So let's go ahead and close this window. So we're back to our normal windows. How do we interact with our new Kali? So first thing we can do is we can click the Windows button and just type Kali and bring this up. This will give us a terminal window. This is what we've been working in the entire time. The tools are here. They're you can access them. For example, I don't know, let's do DNS enum. You can see that tool is already installed, it's working, those kind of things. Additionally, if you're wanting to do anything in Python or anything like that, you know, those are installed here, and you know those tools are operational and working, and they're in a Linux environment. So I know that most of you will probably appreciate that Linux terminal window, but some of you may want to have a graphical interface to Kali, and we've already installed that and we've configured it for use. So what we can do is we can click the start button, and we can type remote desktop. And because we configured that RDP server to be listening on port 23,000, we can just do localhost colon and then 23,000, and we can access that server. You can go ahead and just say yes to that. And so this is going to give you the graphic, the GUI of Kali. So we just need to authenticate with that account that we created earlier. Now again, this is not the Windows credential that you have. This is your Linux credential. This is we're accessing a completely separate Linux install there. And from now on, if you want to interact with your Kali Linux box via GUI, you just use that remote desktop connection client, and you can access Kali essentially. You know, you can see that all the tools are here, and you know, we basically have a full install. Now I am going to say that there is one gotcha, and maybe half of you are going to have this problem, half of you are not, if you find yourself that if you click on something and you get this error, there's a fix, right? So there's a shared object that is not included in, that needs to be fixed to be able to fix this terminal error, and you may actually get it with some of the other tools that are installed here, and it's no big deal. We'll fix it here in a second. So if you find that you have this error when you're going through and just launching applications, we'll do this fix. If not, no need to run this next bit. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the remote desktop, and let me show you how to do that, I guess, real quick. So you can see right now I'm in full screen mode. You know, I've got a complete Linux box, kind of wondering where's my Windows box. This is the full screen remote desktop window. So we can either minimize this, it'll get us back to our Windows machine, or we can close it, and that's fine too, and just disconnect. And then if we ever need to reconnect, we can just go back. Okay, so let's fix that error. Now remember this terminal window, when I choose Kali, this is a terminal window running in our Kali instance, right? So this is essentially Linux on Windows, and anything that we do and we interact with this terminal window is going to configure our Linux system. Okay, so if you were one of the few that had that shared object issue, we just need to run a real quick command to fix that. So I've gone ahead and closed out of the terminal window. Just want to show you again how we launch that. So clicking on the start window, go to Kali, and this comes up with our Linux subsystem again. So what we're going to do is we're just going to type out the command that I've got pasted there, bottom right. That's it typed out. We just hit enter, and we need to authenticate. and then it strips that out. And now when we connect to our remote desktop, everything should work. So let's go ahead and start the remote desktop service again, and we do that by our Xrdp Start. If you always want it running, you can type enable here instead of start. I personally prefer to have it shut down when I'm not using it and start it when I am. So up to you. Okay, and then let's connect to it here, enter, and authenticate. All right, and we've got our GUI running here. Everything looks good. Let's see if terminal runs. Boom, it does. Okay, so that's really the end, the completion of getting Kali running on your Windows 10. There are a few cleanup things that we should probably do, and then we need to go re-enable our AV or our antivirus or Windows Defender. But before we do that, we want to add some exclusions to the directories. So as you remember, when we downloaded the Kali Linux default package, there were several exploits, several shell codes, some programs that will be detected by our AV as malicious. So I want to go ahead and remove those or set those as an exclusion. So Windows Defender or whatever your AV is, don't remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Start button. I'm going to type virus, go here, and go to Manage Settings, and go to exclusions here. We're going to add an exclusion. We're going to go folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on this PC and we're just going to search for Kali. Now this might take a little bit. They're going to be different depending on your PC. They're going to be named different things. So this is really unfortunately the easiest way to do this. And once again, you can see right here Windows saying working on it. It's just searching your computer for folders named Kali. Okay, it looks like my computer has come back and has found a whole bunch of different directories that have the word Kali in it. The one that we're specifically looking for is this one under C users, app data, local packages. So we're just going to select that and hit select folder. Yes, we've got that exclusion, and we can go back and re-enable our virus and threat protection settings. So this real-time protection, you've probably got this turned off, turn it back on, and it should work fine. So again, now we've got a complete Windows box with Kali running on it. Pretty much the way that I use it is, just use Windows as normally, and anytime that I need a Linux box, I just jump in here and run Kali and use this terminal window. And in future videos, other HackerArsenal videos where we talk about tools, those kind of things, this is a setup that we're going to be using. So this way we're all kind of starting from the same foundation. We're all working from the same hacking platform. So with that, please, I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please, if you could, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be releasing a new hacker tool once every week, right? So most videos aren't going to be this long. They'll probably be about 10 to 15 minutes long, where we talk about a hacker tool, how to use it, why to use it, when to use it, things to look out for, tips and tricks to use them. This one was a little bit longer because I wanted to make sure that we are all starting from the same place. So with that, thank you very much. I'll talk to you next time.